What is up? Daniel here with the Virtual Robotics Studio, and we are back. This time we're going to get our front and back frames connected together. But before we start building, we got to give our special thanks to First and Argosy Foundation for making this possible. Okay, this should be a pretty quick build. We're just going to take our two frame pieces, I guess they go this way, and connect them together. There is a bracket that's going to go up here on this top corner, and that bracket is right here. It's this little, I don't know, it's got one angle, so it's almost a rectangle, but one side is cut on an angle. So we need two of those brackets, one for each side. And we're going to be attaching those with rivets. So again, I've got my rivets here. I've got both rivet tools, the manual and the pneumatic. You'll need the drill bit to match. Again, if you're using bolts, you need whatever size drill bit you need for your bolts, as well as the hex key and wrenches that you would need to tighten those bolts down. We're going to be drilling, so I've got the snap punch and the deburring tool so we can clean it up. Obviously, we need the drill if we're going to be drilling. And I'm going to be using my calipers to hopefully mark stuff out and set our position. If you don't have calipers, then get your most accurate tape measure for this step. And of course, we need our safety glasses. Okay, so first step, we don't need the diagonal one. This is the back brace. So we're going to set that out of the way for now. And we're just going to be working with our vertical or front frame section here. And we need to make sure that this is oriented correctly before we figure out where our brackets are going to go. So first of all, we've got the H, but the H isn't even. The bar is closer to one side than the other. So that bar is closer to the top. So this is our top, and the table right now is the bottom. We're going to be working on the top, and we're going to be working on the outside edges. All right, so we're going to kind of flip it this way. And so this frame is going to be right on the front of the robot. The other one is going to slope down. We can show it really quickly. It's going to slope down this way. And this bracket is going to end up going on both of those pieces like this to hold it together. And another one, of course, on the other side. So we'll get it attached to just the front piece first, the front frame section here first, and then we'll bring the other frame section in and make the connection. And there's a few different ways that we can try to set this up. So one way is, there is, in the manual, some layout for the holes that should match the holes on this piece. And that can work if you drill your holes accurately enough. So that is like, we'll do a hole 1/2 inch down, then 1 inch, 1.5, and 2 inches down on this beam. And that should line up with the holes on this. Sometimes, though, if you're not accurate with your snap punching or your marking, you can miss some stuff. So another thing is, if you have the official bracket here, which you should because it came in the kit of parts, this, we know, is a set size. So we can actually use the edges of this bracket to the edges of our piece to set up where our holes should go. So that's the way I'm going to try to do this first one. And then on the other side, we'll see how well it went, and maybe we'll switch it up and try it the other way. So what I know is this piece down from the top should be about 1/4 inch, or should be exactly 1/4 inch. And in from the back here, it should be 1/4 inch. So we know sort of this dimension here and this dimension here should both be 1/4 inch. So that's what we can try to do, is if I scribe a line at 1/4 and scribe a line at 1/4, we can line this up on those quarters and clamp it in place. So I guess first thing I will do is let's get this kind of colored in so we can see when we do our scribe marks here. So it should be somewhere in that well-colored in section. Okay, and I'll get the calipers, and let's go ahead and set those to 1/4 inch, 0.250. 2505, that'll do. All right, and so I'm going to come down this direction, and we'll scribe a line. That looks good, and then from the top of my piece here, I will scribe a line. Now, one of the things to remember as we go through attaching this is that we cut this edge. So if your cut is perfectly square, then both of these lines are going to line up beautifully and we're good. If the lines don't make a 90-degree angle in this corner when you scribed it, it's more important to be close to that top line, like sort of get the average of that short line going across the top, and make sure you're lined up perfectly on the other line, because this edge of our aluminum, it's factory. That's as straight as we can expect anything to be. All right, so let me grab some clamps and let's get this piece attached. Okay, and I want to just get it nice and perfectly on those lines. And really take your time with this step. This is one of the most important steps to be accurate. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and get a second clamp on here. A little tighter. Okay, and of course, after it's clamped up, double check. You should still be able to see your lines right along the edges. And if so, then we're ready to go ahead and drill our first hole. Let me get my drill. And I'm using 3/16 rivets, so I'm going to use the 3/16 drill bit, but a number like 11 is good too. Anything that's close to that size, you can go a little bit bigger. And let's do one. Okay, that looks good. And we're going to go ahead and get a rivet in there. Okay, that looks good. And I think that's the last time I want to do the hand riveter. So let me go ahead and hook up my pneumatic line for my pneumatic riveter over here. And we are ready for our second hole. Let's see, I got to take a clamp off. I'll go ahead and take this side off. And I'll do my second hole down here. Looks good. Yep, that was easier. Okay, and then I can pop this clamp off because we have two rivets holding it in place, so it shouldn't be able to move much. I can see I'm still nicely on those two lines. Now we're gonna drill the top hole, but not put a fastener in it. So I'm gonna drill the top, well, let's drill the second from the top hole first and rivet that. And the top hole, on one side, because we're doing two of these brackets, the top hole on one side is going to end up getting a rivet. On the other side, it's just going to be an open hole, because we're actually going to use that for a zip tie later. So we're going to drill the top hole right now, but we're not going to put anything in the hole. Okay, so drilled, and we just leave it alone. Okay, actually, the hole that we wanted to leave empty was on the diagonal bar, not our vertical front frame structure. That said, that's okay. Just follow along with the videos. We're gonna fix it later, and it doesn't really create a lot of extra work. So that's one side done. We're gonna flip it over, and we are gonna do the other side. So the key here is, just like on this first side, it didn't matter which way we attached this as long as the slope was going down. So we have the short side on the top, the long side on the bottom. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, but now we have to match. So because before, we could have attached it this way or this way to match whichever direction our slope was going. But now we have to make sure both our slopes are facing the same way. So we got this one sloping down. This one is going to need to connect this way onto here. And I think that method worked really well with scribing the lines and then clamping it in place. But again, the alternative is we could mark for all the individual holes, in which case you would go to like 1/2 inch because that's the middle of the piece. And you could scribe 1/2 inch, and then it would be 1/2 inch down from the top, and then 1 inch down from the top, and then 1.5 inches down from the top, and then 2 inches down from the top. And you would have 4 points where the holes cross. And if you're accurate that way, it's going to work. If you drill all 4 holes, they should match the piece. But I like the idea of getting this one clamped up this way, because it's got to match the one on the bottom, and then just using the bracket to align our holes. So once again, I'm going to color this in so we'll be able to see it, and then we'll do that scribe mark 1/4 inch down from the top and up from the bottom. Or in from the side. Up from the bottom doesn't make sense. Okay, hopefully that was enough coloring in with the Sharpie. Let me set my calipers back to 250, or yeah, 250 exactly this time. All right, and once again, we're just going to drag it along the edge of the piece this way, and we get our line. Looks like my Sharpie was right on the edge, but I can see that. And then we'll come down from the top. And once again, close to the edge of the Sharpie, but I think we're good. All right, so once again, gonna line this up so it is on the 2 lines there. And then we'll go ahead and get it clamped into place. Okay, that still looks good, so throw my other clamp on here. Yep, I think we're good. And before I drill the second one, I am going to just make sure, right? We've got the slope down here and the slope down here. They're going the same direction, which means when we go to take our other piece and line it up on those, it's going to line up on both of our brackets. So make that check, especially before you drill the second one. And I think we're ready to go. So let's flip this around. We'll go ahead and drill and see if we can get a rivet in one of these holes. All right, let's do the second one. All right, and I'll pop the bottom rivet off. So on the long side, we'll do one more. Okay, and then same thing with the first side we did. We are going to, well, pop this clamp off. We're going to drill this hole, but we're not going to put anything in it right now. We're just going to leave the top hole open. Okay, and we'll come back through. One of the 2 top holes will eventually get a rivet. The other one will get a tie wrap or a zip tie holding stuff in place. Okay, so this section is good. Let me grab a shop rag here, and I'm going to wipe off the table because now I want to make sure the table is as clean as possible so the pieces that I put down can sit relatively flat, and we can make sure we get everything lined up nicely. So we'll just get rid of all this. All right, and once again, so this is the front section here of our robot, and then we've got this section, which will be attaching on a diagonal like this. And we have to figure out some ways to line this up. Now, there's not as clear of a mark at the top for where we're going to go on this one. We do know the holes are going to line up kind of the same way, 1/4 inch from the edge. But in this case, what I think we're going to do is we'll drill the top hole on our back frame piece. And if we do the top hole on each side, we'll then be able to rivet those in, and then we just have to adjust our angle. And we'll be able to adjust the angle by trying to line up that line. So let's do that next. So I'm going to set our front frame down out of the way here. And let me kind of get some space. Okay. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to mark that top hole, And it's going to be 1/2 inch down from the top. Oh, this wants to fall over. I'm going to add a little clamp here, and that should keep it from tipping over on me while I work on it. Okay, so I'm setting my calipers to 1/2 inch this time, 0.50. 0.4995, close enough. Okay, and let's see, we're going to be about here. So let's color in that area so we have a good area that we'll be able to see our scribe lines. And we're going to do 1/2 inch from the side and 1/2 inch from the top. Okay, and we have a point where they are crossing, and that point is where we're going to drill. So get your snap punch. And again, this one we want to be as accurate as possible. Make sure that is right on where those lines cross. And if you're a little off, remember you can snap punch like I just was. You can snap punch on a little bit of an angle to move it over towards where you want your hole to be centered. That looks pretty good. And if you've been having trouble drilling right on the pluses, another thing you can do is instead of starting with a 3/16 drill bit, if you need to be really accurate, you can get a smaller drill bit size. The smaller the drill bit size, the easier it is to sort of get into that snap punch, that divot that we made, that little hole, and stay lined up with it. So you could drill a smaller size drill bit and then switch up to your rivet or bolt size drill bit, in my case a 3/16 to open the hole up. But I think I can get, 3/16 is about the biggest size that I'm comfortable with going straight away, because I can get that into the mark there. So let's go for it. Okay, and we'll deburr that. And you can kind of see, if you look at my lines, that's pretty close to the center, but maybe not perfect. But it's going to be, I think, good enough for what we're doing. Okay, I am going to flip this whole thing over. And remember, sorry, the side that we're working on, so there's this big cutout here. We should be on that edge, the edge with the extra plastic sticking off the top. That is the side we're drilling on. Okay, so we're going to flip it over. We're still on that side where that extra plastic is. And once again, we're going to make a mark 0.5 and 0.5. So we'll color that area in so we can see the scribe line a little clearer. And I did not change my calipers, but I will double check that the number is still good. And it is. So we'll scribe across here for 0.5 and up this way for 0.5. Okay, and now let's get that snap punch in the right spot, hopefully. Okay, that looks good, and let's go for it. That one's pretty close too. Let's clean the hole. Okay, and now we're ready to try to put these two together. Let's make ourselves some space, get rid of the things we've been working on. Okay, and we have to make sure we get our orientations correct. So if you do it standing up, sometimes that's the easiest way to get it aligned, and then we can tip it down to start working on it, or we might be able to just do it standing up. So first, this piece, our front support, right? We're gonna have that down. We're gonna have the angle brackets facing towards where this one's coming in. It doesn't really matter if you do it this way or this way, but just make sure the angle brackets are on the top. And this one, we're gonna place it so that the plastic is facing towards our front support here. So when I tip this down, the plastic would hit first. Then we can line up. So we're going to end up lining up that top hole on each side and kind of throw a little rivet in. And even if I don't attach the rivet, we should be able to get a good idea of if we're happy with where this ended up or not. Okay, and that looks pretty good. So you can see that for me, I'm pretty much right even, just a little bit past where that curve starts here on the top. But of course, because we only have one thing in there, this can still rotate quite a bit. And so that's what we're going to have to fix. But we can actually tighten these rivets. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these rivets in, and we'll still be able to rotate it to line it up. So after we pop the rivets, then we'll get a clamp on when it's lined up. And then we can go ahead and use the bracket as a guide for the rest of the holes here. So we got one more. All right, and I think we talked about this when attaching the plastic. If your plastic is sticking out and you can't get your bracket to sit flat, you might have to file that plastic down. Maybe even take the top attachment point. We had a rivet here holding the plastic on. You might have to drill that rivet out so you can bend the plastic away and file it down. But you want these to be able to sit nice and flat here. It's going to help with the alignment. It's also going to be stronger, and everything is just going to go together better. So we have that attached, and right now we sort of have this folding ladder situation going on. We can, open it up or close it, and we need to get it in the right angle. And I think the easiest way to do that is, once again, our gap, and I can measure to double check like what it's looking like over here, but our gap should be about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and mine looks like it is a little, let me measure with this side, right at where our fastener is. So I'm at 0.244 on that side. And on this side, we are at, same thing. This side is almost 0.25 exactly. So what that means now is we want to make this be straight. So you can kind of see the edge of, the plate here, or the edge of the box and the edge of the plate. And this gap from the edge of the plate here to the edge of our box up here, we just want to make sure that's the same dimension all the way along. Probably if you just eyeball it and get it as straight as you can, that's going to be good enough. But what I can do is I'm just going to scribe a line really quickly at 1/4 of an inch. And if I pull this out so it's too far out, then I'll be able to see that line at least down towards the bottom where we sort of care the most to use to line it up. So this side I was 1/4 of an inch, so I'm going to scribe right at 0.25. And you want to try to match your measurement here just so that the angle is correct. So that's good. And then on this side, while we're still bent out, somewhere in that neighborhood, we're going to have a line. Okay. I'm going to, once again, let's measure this one. So if you kind of try to eyeball it straight, if you measure directly in, kind of along your scribe line to that first rivet. So this is about 2.4 for me. So, I bumped it. So 2.42 is going to be okay. So we're going to open this up, and I'll scribe at 2.4. And that should match on this side. And the difference between those two sides, like as long as you're kind of close, 2.4 versus 2.5 is not going to really be a big difference. So now what we're looking to do is to tip this in until it's right on that line. So now it is definitely, right, this surface and this surface are parallel. Then I can go ahead and drop a clamp onto here. Good. And the other side I'm going to line up as well. Be gentle with it. Once you have the clamp holding it in place, I'm going to be very gentle with moving and setting it down, because the clamp is not, it's not a bolt, it's not a rivet. It's holding fairly well, but you can definitely make stuff move. So we're going to be more careful now while we try to line up the other side. And the other side should generally be lined up after your first side is. So that looks pretty good. Actually, so my line is maybe a tiny bit off the edge, but it's parallel. The line is parallel to the bracket, and that's kind of the most important thing here. And so we'll go ahead and clamp that one on, a little tighter. Okay. And just double check on both sides that you're happy with the way it looks, right? That this gap looks nice and parallel, that they look even. You can even double check if you want on the bottom. You could grab a tape measure, and you could double check down at the legs, right? If I measure down here, across here at the front leg, I'm just under, I'm like 18.5 minus maybe a 32nd or a 16th. We can do the same thing on this side. 18.5. Wait, was I 18.5 or 18.75? Let's double check that. So this one's 18. Yep, this one's basically exactly 18.5 to the corner. And let's measure this one. This one is out a little bit more. So this one was like 18.75. So what I think I'm going to do is let's see which side looks off more. And I can then adjust it to make those also match. So maybe, oh, and there's still some play in this too. So I can still bend it a little bit without moving the brackets. So let me see if that is enough. Yeah, okay, so this is 18.75. And on this one, we are now 18.75. Yeah, so these back rivets, you can still kind of force them to move a little bit until we get attached the rest of the way. So focus mainly on keeping stuff parallel and know that we can make a small adjustment. But if you do that measurement at the bottom and the numbers are way different, try to play with it before loosening the clamps and see if you can get them to match. If you can, you're good. If you can't, you might need to unclamp and try again. All right, so now all we have to do is drill out these holes, and we'll add rivets as we go. Now on this diagonal one, we can do all 4 holes. We don't have to leave any of the holes open. So we're just going to drill and rivet, or drill and bolt, whichever you're doing, all the holes down this line. And now I think I can drill this hole, but I won't be able to rivet. So I'll go ahead and drill it first and then move the clamp. Okay, so now we should be able to move the clamp. We've got the 2 rivets in to hold it in place, and the 3rd hole is already set up. So that should be good. And let's get our last hole on this side. All right. And as we flip this over, just kind of to reiterate, one of the reasons why we care so much about our 2 1x1 box pieces, our frame pieces, follow the angle of this bracket so carefully, is that angle of the bracket, when this is mounted straight in the robot, is going to give us the right angle to launch our notes, or the donuts, whatever, the rings, at the right angle. All right, let's turn it around. Let's do the same thing for our other side here. And it's the same thing. We're just going to drill and rivet at least 1 more hole, and then we can take the clamp off and finish up. All right, next hole. And let's take the clamp off and get our last one. Okay. So that looks good. Again, you might still have, like, if you really push on it, you should have a small amount of play here still. And you might have a little bit less than I'm showing if you are using bolts and you really snug the bolts down. But we actually want that little bit of play right now. So when we go to attach this into the frame, into that the drivetrain that we've been working on, we kind of are going to have these front posts vertical. And then this back one, we might have to adjust the angle. And we can adjust the angle by tipping the whole thing. But we might also be able to use that little bit of play to adjust our angle so that we have exactly the right, angle mounted up in the robot. All right, so that is it for this step. We're gonna clean this up, we're gonna set up for our next video, and we will see you in that video where we start to attach our motor mounts. But before we go, as always, we have to give a special thanks to First and Argosy Foundation for making this all possible.